Welcome back, everybody. It's your man Eric with another. Let me piggyback off that. And I'm glad to be here in my living room on a really dreary day. I get to sit home and do these videos for you, and I'm happy about that, for real. Um, so in yesterday's video, I asked a question about, some of the things you wouldn't mind seeing me talk about or cover or whatever. So one of those things was politics. And generally, we don't talk about that politics over here, okay? We don't talk about politics over here. Forget about it. But it is I used to be a community organizer, right? And one of the things that people used to always tell me was they don't do politics. And my natural response to that was politics is doing you, so get involved. Um, I think now more than ever, and not just in the United States or the whatever states, um, I think the citizens really need to be up on civic responsibility, civic duty. Otherwise, you get these results, suffering. I mean, I'm not saying that your choices are always the best, but Jiminy Christmas, man, yeah, make better decisions than that. You confuse your options with your choices. Anyway, so today's video in that regard is Kentucky Bourbon is furious. Trump destroyed them overnight. My man Tennessee Brando, I watch him occasionally, especially, during the leading up to the election. He popped up in my feed a lot. And then once the results came, I kind of made a decision that I wasn't going to talk about politics. But here we are. This is for that one person who commented politics can be cool too. All right, let's get into it.
You know, folks, one of the hardest parts about talking with MAGA day in and day out is getting them to understand that Donald Trump's presidency could have.
I always forget to do this first. Make sure you go check out Tennessee Brando's channel. Of course, I will leave the link in the description. And yeah, man, let's check it out.
A negative impact on their life. They just cannot buy into that concept for 1 second. They really believe that he's the guy that has all the answers to their problems. And for the last 4 years, they've laid every bit of the blame at Joe Biden's feet. They could absolutely believe that Joe Biden just made their lives a living hell, and nothing we ever did to show them the good that Joe Biden was doing ever mattered because they would say, well, but we can't feel it. The economy may be doing better, but we can't feel it. They can't feel it now either. But because Donald Trump is telling them he's going to make it all okay, they believe him because they've put all of their faith in him. And it's really hard to reason with people who react based on their faith in someone rather than based on the evidence that's right in front of them. But
Mm,
people's lives is going to get harder under this Trump presidency. We said here on the channel time and again that this presidency would be nothing but revenge and retribution. And a lot of people flexed at that and came back at me and said, yeah, hell yeah, we want to see him get revenge. We want to see.
um, yeah, I don't even know where to begin, man. First of all, if we go back and he starts with talking about how MAGA, um, how difficult it is to talk to them. Yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. I think most people who voted for Trump wouldn't admit openly in a diverse setting that part of their decision in voting for Trump was because they didn't want to vote for a black woman. Part of the reason that Trump was president in the first place was revenge for having a black man as president uh, for 8 years. I mean, if anyone remembers the amount of discourse and resistance before the man even took office, um, based solely on things like his swag. I remember when that became popular. Oh, he's got swag. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, Tennessee man. I try not to interrupt too more, man. Too much.
get retribution. And what they don't realize is that when he does, it's going to make their lives harder. And I'm sure they'll find a way to spin it that, well, this is coming down from Washington or this is the Democrats doing it. You'll never hear them say this was Donald Trump doing it. But, folks,
It's the deep state.
this is Donald Trump doing it. And this one here is going to really hurt folks where I live. I grew up right on the state line of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia, and this one is going to hurt Kentucky's economy firsthand. It'll be interesting to see if anyone ever puts the blame at Donald Trump's feet. We're going to read a little bit here from this article from the Business Insider, and then I'm going to play you a clip of Governor Andy Beshear over in Kentucky, who is absolutely on point with how we should be messaging about this whole thing. But first, let's look here at the Business Insider. Um, Kentucky, Kentucky bourbon makers are up in arms about Canada yanking their bottles off shelves.
Um, I'm not as much of a drinker as I used to be, but bourbon was my drink. Uh, Wild Turkey. I do know for I don't know, maybe it's not a fact, but I do know that Kentucky makes like the best bourbon. Like I think that's like a world, like everyone knows that. Like Kentucky, if you want bourbon, you get Kentucky bourbon. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I don't usually say that about, in the comments, but I'm getting comments, so keep them coming. I like it.
This is really going to hurt Kentucky, folks. Kentucky bourbon makers are unhappy with Canada, which buys millions of dollars of whiskey a year from the state. In the days since Donald Trump's tariffs went into effect, several Canadian provinces have pulled U.S. made alcohol from store shelves. And any U.S. alcohol they could any U.S. alcohol they buy could get more expensive. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said on Monday that he would impose a retaliatory 25% tariff on 155 billion worth of American goods. Eric Gregory, the president of the Kentucky Distilleries Association, said in a Tuesday statement on X that the retaliatory tariffs would have far reaching consequences across Kentucky, home to 95% of the world's bourbon. He said Canada
I said it.
Say that they're A, B,
I said
and C
it.
so that when
I
you
said that.
Canada's measures would jeopardize growth for years. Uh, Gregory's statements came
Wait, 95% of the world's. Yo, that's crazy. In Kentucky. Wow.
as several Canadian provinces clamped down on the U.S. made alcohol this week. Provinces such as Ontario and New Brunswick instructed owned alcohol retailers, which regulate the sale and distribution of alcohol in their regions, to pull the U.S. products from their shelves. Ontario's government instructed the Liquor Control Board of Ontario to immediately cease imports of U.S. alcohol and stop selling American products. On Wednesday, the government of New Brunswick said on Facebook that it wouldn't purchase any new alcohol products. The government said it had removed U.S. made alcohol products from shelves. Quebec followed suit. Folks, I mean, this is, like I said, this is something that is really going to devastate Kentucky. The Canada Kentucky agricultural trade totaled 691 million in 2023, while Kentucky exporting 43 million worth of whiskey to Canada that year, the Canadian government said on its official site. And Kentucky imported 40.3 million worth of whiskey from Canada. Folks, these things are absolutely going to affect Kentucky's economy and America's economy, and there will be people out there who will never look at this and see that this could have ever been Trump's fault at all. But this guy does not understand how tariffs work. He's using them as like this bullying tactic against our allies who we've always had good relationships with. And it's so weird to just sit back and watch a president go after our allies in the manner that he has and make them pay a price.
Okay. Um, I want to go back. So the tariffs are definitely going to affect Americans way more than, other countries will be affected. Like, Americans are under this false impression. And also folks understand that 90% of the time the distinction for the representation of the word American is someone that looks like Tennessee and not like me. So take that into consideration, first of all, right? So when you're hearing the word American in almost every context, they're talking about folks that look like Tennessee and not like me. That being said, Americans, particularly in red states like Nebraska, Texas, Kentucky, et cetera, these are the biggest welfare states, and yet they intentionally and consistently vote against their interests for reasons that I think even Tennessee would agree with me in in saying um generally are based in otherisms. Again, correct me if I'm wrong.
And the people are sitting back cheering for him to do it. And what's even more strange to me is that people like me can't blame Canada for what they're doing. I can't look to Canada and go, you know what? I mean, I can't blame them for doing that because he's picking on them for no reason. And this picking on them is going to cause them to retaliate. Why wouldn't they? If the roles was reversed, I promise you we would be retaliating. So it's one of those things where they're rooting for Trump to go after our allies, and we're rooting for our allies to go after Trump. And it's just a really weird place to be. But this is absolutely Donald Trump's fault. It should be referred to as the Trump tax. It should be, every time these problems happen, we should refer to them as Donald Trump's problems. And Governor Andy Beshear of Kentucky is absolutely spot on in this next clip. Take a look at this, and then we'll talk more about it.
Before we hit that though, um this man, first of all, I'm not calling him Trump anymore. I'm calling him Trump, because that is the name that it was before they changed it to Trump. Look it up. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. Uh, I accept new information, facts, and am able to change my mind and make different decisions based on new information. Anyway, that being said, Trump has everything he has done thus far has affected affected Americans negatively in some form or fashion. Um, and they're already pivoting and trying to say that. whatever is going to come, particularly economically for the nation, is Biden's fault. So let's say it's been what, uh, a month and a half? Yeah, like month and a half, since he's been president, and immediately he started wrecking shit. Um, so a month and a half, let's say another month and a half, right? That's 3 months, 90 days. I don't think it's out of the question to consider Nebraska's already going bankrupt in 6 months, right? A recession could theoretically hit the United States in 9 days after his inauguration. This man is damn near gonna bankrupt the country, and these talking heads um just continue to lie to people rather than sound the alarm. It's a damn shame.
Hey, everybody, it's Andy. Sadly, last night, President Trump initiated tariffs on Canada and Mexico, and it's going to make our lives as the American people that much more difficult and everything that much more expensive. And let me tell you, this decision was made solely by President Trump. And the amount things will cost more is the Trump tax on you and your family. His tariffs on Canada and Mexico are going to raise the cost of vegetables, fruits, and meat at your grocery store. The
You know, I also worked in service industry for a long time, restaurants and whatnot, catering. There's like people you shouldn't mess with, you know. One of them being people who make your food. Yeah, it might be uh vindictive and petty for someone to say do something to your food, which I've seen done. Pardon me. I've seen it done. I'm not gonna say I've done it, but I've seen it done, and this is sort of like that, you know. Mexico, I think, exports almost all of the produce that goes into the United States that or that Americans consume. Um, and Donald Trump is basically being a Karen at the table complaining about some insignificant thing, and Mexico is the waiter is gonna be like, oh yeah, okay, all right, how you like that special sauce?
the extra amount you pay, that's the Trump tax. The tariffs on Canada are going to increase the price of gas. The extra amount you pay is the Trump tax. And then the tariffs on lumber are going to make buying that next home, getting that first home for a young couple, or renovating a home that much more expensive. That will be the Trump tax. And just wait, everything from automobiles to other major purchases you need to make are going to be that much more expensive. One person made this decision. It's a bad decision, and they can ultimately undo this decision.
Yeah, but he ain't never gonna do that. He ain't never gonna do that. I mean, he probably will because he won't have no choice. Um, but I mean, he's not even really running the country. He just signs shit. They all come to him with, "You got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this," and he just sign it. I don't think he's that smart. I really don't. I don't think Donald Trump is a smart man. I know people say he's a smart man. I've heard that. I've seen no evidence of it. He barely has command of the English language. And it's funny how all his supporters fail to see any of his flaws.
So what
Dangerous.
can you do? You can make your voice heard. You could say that you didn't vote for a president to increase prices. You voted for one to decrease prices. You can make your voice heard that says before you are a Democrat or a Republican, you are a provider for a family. And you deserve a government that makes life a little bit easier for you, not a lot harder. So get out there, raise your voice. Remember, it's the most important one. I'll be here fighting for you, fighting for us. Talk to y'all soon.
I've
Right
made
on,
no
bro.
bones about it here on the channel. I am a huge fan of Andy Beshear, and the fact that I live right on the state line and Andy Beshear is Kentucky's governor and we're stuck with Bill Lee, that's pretty rough. Every day I say to myself, why can't we just swap? Because I really feel like that Andy is on point. And notice how Andy speaks. First of all, he starts off by saying, hey, folks, it's Andy. That's a Southern thing. We approach each other on a first name basis. And he doesn't sit there and call Trump supporters names. He doesn't sit there and call Donald Trump names. And if he did, who could really blame him? But that's not the approach he takes. He just comes with a dose of reality. He just comes with a dose of the truth and lays it out in a way that's easy to understand. He puts the blame where it belongs, and then he says to the people, hey, get out there and let your voices be heard. Let people know that you didn't vote for this. Notice he didn't call anybody an idiot for voting for Trump. He didn't talk down to people. He didn't say, well, to all you people here in Kentucky who's going to suffer from this, this is what you voted for, so have at it. That's not what he said.
I get that. But I also get the other side of that too, where people are upset and want to call out the fact that, you know, it's like if you tell your kid, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, don't touch the stove, and the kid touched the stove and burned his hand, you as a parent, you don't say at some point, uh-huh, see, I told you.
That's a reasonable person, and that guy's one of us. And that's what I will never understand again about people in my part of the world is you was willing to latch on to this spray-tanned celebrity that never walked down a dirt road in his life, doesn't know any of the struggles we've ever faced in this world.
Facts. Make it make sense to me. I've never really spent a whole lot of time in like rural areas of rural areas of the country. Um, I have spent time in certain parts of the country that are not the city, but I don't know if I would classify them as rural. I don't like that word. Um, but yeah, it seems to me that people from these parts of the world and the country in the United States would despise someone like Trump and his offspring. Oh, by the way, speaking of his offspring, have you guys seen the last one? This kid, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about. He looks like Damien.
But yet you'll get mad at Andy for saying the things he said when deep down in your gut somewhere
No, serious. That kid scares me, man.
you have to know that he's right and he's one of us. And when he said that about JD Vance, he ain't from here. That's a supreme insult in our part of the world. It truly is. If you say that boy ain't from around here, that is one of the biggest insults you can give.
Yeah, that could come off some other kind of way too, bro. I know you don't mean it like that right now, but ooh.
Somebody. And it just goes to show that the only reason that anyone in MAGA would latch on to Donald Trump and JD Vance is to empower their hatred. That's it. Because if you stuck in the real world, you would stick with people like Andy. if you stuck in the real world, you would stick with one of your own and you would listen to them before you listen to a fake Appalachian and a celebrity apprentice host tell you that they have your best interest at heart. Folks, they don't. And this is something that's going to really hurt Kentucky. And when it happens and they say to us, well, this was Democrats or this come down from Washington. No, this came straight from Donald Trump and his inability to govern. So we need to put it where it belongs. This is the Trump tax. This is Trump's fault. If you could buy into the idea that Joe Biden made everything in your life miserable, then if you could buy into the idea that a president could do that, then couldn't you also think that Donald Trump could do the same, especially if all he's wanting to do now is just
Yeah, you could if you are a rational human being and like I said before, you're able to uh, absorb new information and make different decisions, you know. But I see also online a lot of people who say they regret voting for Trump now, whatever. Excuse me, Trump. Um, but yeah, you regret it now because you're affected by what he has done to you. People try to tell you before, but you ain't want to listen. Or you heard him and you just thought, I'm not voting for that black chick. Tell me I'm lying.
get back at Democrats. He doesn't care about governing. He doesn't care about people. He sure as hell doesn't care about Appalachian people, and neither does the fake Appalachian that works under him. So I truly appreciate everyone for your support here on the channel. We're continuing to grow, and I really appreciate it every day. I check my analytics and statistics, and I'm just always surprised by the growth. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you like the kind of content I do and you haven't hit that subscribe button, it doesn't cost anything to do so, so be sure to do that.
Wow, this is a first on Let Me Piggyback Off That because I want to piggyback off that in the middle of a Let Me Piggyback Off That. I also want to really say I appreciate everyone who's been supporting. The growth is really I'm just really I'm happy. I'm happy. I appreciate it. And so thank you all very much for uh joining me on this journey. And I'm sorry to have freeze framed you right here, Tennessee. Sorry, bro.
Also, you can follow me over on Patreon. I've been putting a lot of, content over there that's, not as political. Sometimes we try to, talk about albums and we talk about music. And I'm going to be talking about this book pretty soon that I'm reading. This is a really good one, Where the Devil Don't Stay. Traveling the South with the drive-by truckers. This is really good. I'm just about 1 or 2 chapters into this thing, and it's really good. So I'll probably be breaking that down over on Patreon. We do stuff like that. We
Nice,
break
bro.
down books. We talk about records. And we have interviews with musicians. A lot of cool stuff going on. So the link to that is in the description of this video. So be sure to check that out. And I just appreciate everyone's support. And I really hope to see Andy Bashir on the national stage. I really believe. I hate making predictions, but I'll just say that we need that. I just think that I go back to like the last time that Democrats really connected with the working class. They always did it with a Southerner. And so I will always
Mm.
be a fan, and I will always be sitting back pulling for Andy Bashir.
All right, y'all. So, as the man said, make sure you go and check out his channel. I will be sure to put the link in the description. Also drop a like, a comment, and subscribe right here. I know normally I say don't worry about me because I'm gonna just piggyback off that anyway, but I want to continue to grow and I need your support in doing that. So, like I said, let me piggyback off that. Peace. Like that. Useful idiots in the business.